Procision is based in Melbourne, Australia, essentially, and we've got staff that span the East Coast. Initially, I started the business on my own in 1996 as a sole trader, and I grew it from the ground up. Presently, we've got about 80 customers that we look after, and we manage about 800 staff within that 80 customer realm. The world has moved from the server in the office to the cloud, and so modern workplace is a very big drive. In this next 12 months, we really need to protect our customers because they're looking to Procision to maintain their name and maintain their integrity, and they've got customers that they need to keep their integrity as well. And so Procision's job is to make sure that they're safe and that their ongoing reputation is safe. Probably the greatest advantage of Enable Backup was it went from the local server direct to the cloud, and it went to a data center which was here, and it meant that we could go to our customers and say, hey, look, your data is actually onshore, which meets all of the privacy laws in Australia. So we ticked the box on that, we ticked the box on cloud, and the local backup then became an option. Whereas in the past, what was happening with StorageCraft was the local backup was the primary, and we were forever trying to make sure that the NAS was working at the customer site, that the hard drives were working. We'd have to tell the customer, look, Mr. Customer, we need to buy more storage yet again. And it became an ongoing maintenance argument just about the local storage and keeping it on the rails. And then at Procision, it became an ongoing maintenance because we had SANs and NASs and arrays of disks, and you'd be, it was almost on a weekly basis, you'd be buying a new drive because something had failed. And our team were getting frustrated with that approach. Enable Backup came along and said, you don't have to worry about disks, you don't have to worry about storage on site, you don't have to worry about storage at Procision. We'll go straight to a data center, and then the option is there if you want to replicate it back to the customer. And I thought, okay, that's the kind of model I needed to find, and it came at the right time. When I heard it was cloud first, I was excited. It meant that we could breathe a sigh of relief because it came to a point where if your local infrastructure went down, then you'd have a glut of backups running on the Monday, and you know, that just became a real point of frustration. So I'd say I was quite excited to hear about this product, and also the fact that it was integrated into N-Central. So we use Enable N-Central as our RMM, and it was integrated into N-Central, which means that N-Central really became the hub of everything. And we could now look at the backups inside N-Central, and the reporting was inside N-Central as well. So our team only had to sit inside N-Central to be able to see the backups for each customer and see the status. So there was an integration improvement, and there was a cloud-first approach. And what it meant ultimately was less touch and less infrastructure from us as the MSP. We've had a dramatic improvement because getting that 9 hours back means a couple of things. It's 9 hours that the technical staff can spend on other jobs and ultimately on other customers, which has meant that we need less labour to do the same amount of support, which is an advantage as well. And it also means less frustration from the staff, because if you can imagine as a technical person, if you're doing the same thing every day, if you're constantly having to pick it up and put it back in the bucket every day, that can become very disheartening from a productivity perspective. And so having the cloud-first backup through Enable Backup means that we've been able to dramatically improve their sense of satisfaction about the backups and reduce the anxiety and also gain the extra time in income. What used to keep us up at night was if the backups were working, and so we had a few little conniptions with StorageCraft in the past where you might go out and change a NAS over and copy the files, and the backups would continue, and then the customer would say, hey, Procision, we need a file from 6 months ago, and you go, no worries, I've got all the logs, everything's been working, and you go to restore from 6 months and realize the chain's broken. And when that chain's broken, your heart sinks because you're done. You're toast. You can't get their backup back. You can only try and repair it or send the files off to StorageCraft or do whatever to try and recover that. But most of the time, that volume has been backing up and it hasn't actually been successful. And so what keeps you up at night is the risk of what's actually going to happen if that happens. Typically, when we talk to the customer, we ask them questions such as, what sort of restore time do they need? How long can they last without a server if it was down? And what sort of rekey time do they need to consider? So if they're a business that is 100% data entry based, then obviously we've got to look at the frequency that we're doing the backups and also the storage that we need to have on site. Because it's cloud first and storage is an option, we need to get an understanding from the customer, what kind of vision do they have if they had a total meltdown? Would they want us to spin it up in the cloud, or would they like us to spin it up on their local hardware? And if the answer is spin it up on their local hardware, then obviously the conversation goes deeper about having redundant server hardware that would overcome failures. So if they had a mainboard failure in a server and we had to restore 5 virtual servers, do they have the capacity locally, or do they want us to spin that up in the cloud for them? Thankfully, and touch wood, we've never had a complete failure. We've been able to do test restores. So we've got clients that need to be able to have compliance reporting, and that compliance reporting focuses around what happens in the event of a complete catastrophe. It's an add-on license with MSP Backup where we can just say, look, what we can do is just spin it up in the cloud at an off time, like at a quiet time, and it'll spin that up and it'll run you a couple of screenshots and send you a report to let you know that you were able to do a full restore of your server. That is instant peace of mind for the customer, and the opportunity is there that if we needed to restore it in the cloud, we can just configure a VM and fire that backup straight up in the cloud and connect them to it. With the DR add-on, that's been a great selling point to the customer because it also allows them to know that we're doing our job. So if they're getting reports that show that their backups are able to spin up in entirety in the cloud once or twice a month, of course they are also at peace and they can trust Procision to take care of their backup. Coming from the StorageCraft scenario, we've got NASs on site, typically 1 or 2 NAS devices, which would be local storage, and they used to be the linchpin for their backups, but now because of the method in which we're doing the backups, the local sync is there for a rapid restore. Having the integration with N-Central for MSP Backup has meant that the staff frequently just looking, they can eyeball within a few seconds because it almost looks like traffic lights. You can see quickly how successful the backups have been, and then the senior team will simply oversee that, and it has become a lot easier on everyone's plate to just browse through and check. And the other advantage, of course, with the integration is if something happens, it generates a ticket. We're not depending on the technician who's checking the backups just to do that, because we've also got the ticket generation as well. So for us, this was a step up on what we were experiencing in StorageCraft. Ultimately, as a team, we were expecting that the StorageCraft product would be where MSP Backup is today. And so jumping to MSP Backup was an expectation. It's what we saw in the marketplace. It's what we saw that needed to happen. It wasn't so much a massive surprise. It was that this is what we needed, this is what we expected, and this is what we required. And it ticked all of the boxes, which is why it was a real, I guess, I say sigh of relief, because it was starting to become a silent frustration that we were sitting on a product such as StorageCraft that just wasn't developing as fast as it needed to meet the marketplace and to meet the customer's needs. In short, MSP Backup met exactly what we were expecting it to do. In the cases where we've got customers, and some of our customers can be quite small, and some of our customers are quite large. And when I say small, we're talking, 5 staff in a factory. They're mixing up cleaning chemicals, and they have 5 PCs. There's no server, there's no NAS, there's no backup as such. There's no USB drives and what have you. So all of a sudden, we could offer cloud-first backup to these guys, and the spin-up time was fantastic. So as an MSP, you don't want to have to maintain your own infrastructure all the time just to do backups for customers. You want to be able to leverage off the cloud. You want to be able to tell the customer that their data is safe. You want to be able to let them know that it's, AES 256-bit encrypted and that they can't get hacked with that. And they need to be able to deploy it rapidly with little effort. So they don't have to drive out on site to do a seed backup or deploy a USB drive just to start the backup process. If a customer said today, hey, I need offsite backup, then it would take us less than half an hour to dial in and do that. So within an hour of the customer asking, that backup could be synchronizing to the cloud. We did our own thing for 12 years. For 12 years, we maintained our own infrastructure. And before Enable approached me to say, hey, we've got a new product, we were still replacing drives. We were still doing it probably a somewhat draconic method. And to be able to let go of your infrastructure means to let go of anxiety. I don't need to worry about my internet connection at the office. I don't need to worry about my data center. I don't need to worry about replacing drives or increasing storage. And I don't need to worry about whether the customer is running out of local storage. It becomes a much easier game to do the offsite backup. There are many other products on the marketplace where they offer this cloud-based backup and local storage, but if you look at the price point, you'll notice that this is an exceptional value product. If you're putting 2 backups on the table for the customer, which is basically an insurance policy, the customer is saying, okay, well, what are my outcomes? What is my risk? And when you expose to them the nuances or the differences, and then they look at the price point, it doesn't take a genius to realize that Enable Backup comes in at such an exceptional price point for what it delivers. Profitability is also increasing the number of seats. We've been able to take our existing client base, and because now we offer cloud-only backup or cloud-first backup through Enable, what that means is we're able to deploy it to more people and more customers and to more devices, which has increased our turnover, which also increases our profitability. And so in the last 12 months, we've been able to ditch some old technologies, and we've really spent a lot of time integrating into N-Central. And that has meant that we've been able to drop other technologies which were costing us a lot more, and that has improved our profitability.